Caw. We're back with another reflection on the daily Vedantic. Welcome back, y'all. So I rarely ever mention Magic Mind here, and sometimes behind my shoulder, and it's a company that I started a few years ago. It's just never really relevant. But this morning I was reflecting on something that a friend of mine, this comedian Pete Holmes, said in the Magic Mind podcast that he and I did, where I think it might have been right before we hit record, but he was in a chair about 3 feet over. And he said this phrase of, if I were her, I'd be her. He's talking about just something that had gone wrong, and he was reflecting on at the time it was really frustrating, or immediately after it was really frustrating, but then he just realized, hey, you know what? It's her call, and if I were her, I'd be her. And it was just a really beautiful way, don't know where he got it from, but a beautiful way to sum up when we are wronged by someone or when someone doesn't do what we wish they would. They have an entire lifetime, endless experiences that have shaped the lens in which they view the world. And it's such a graceful approach to view those things with this lens of, well, yeah, that wasn't right, but if I were him, I'd be him. If I went through those experiences and I had the examples of people with alcoholism in my family that I saw when I was 12, 13, 14, 15 years old and took to it without any admonishment from my parents when I was 16, 17, 18, because they were alcoholic. It's actually quite easy to say, okay, yeah, if I were that person, I'd be that person. It is the right graceful approach for other people. It is not the helpful approach for ourselves. We should always hold ourselves to the highest ideal that we can muster. And when we do that, the world shifts itself around us. It actually fosters our growth towards that. But he said that, and it reminded me of something that Swami quotes all the time, and that's happy and blessed hour when wickedness stands forth as goodness bereft of a guide. These two kind of perspectives are perhaps cousins of one another. And I really love this one. I thought about what Pete said for the last few days, and I think about this quote from Maurice Maeterlinck that Swami quotes all the time, because it's such a helpful way to look at these perceived evils in the world around us, not as some supernatural force that's coming for you and I, and you've got to watch out for, and you've got to distance yourself from anyone that does anything remotely evil in our minds. But instead, it is the compassion that Christ gave to those that were murdering him on the cross when he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Happy and blessed hour when wickedness stands forth as goodness bereft of a guide. They just didn't have the right guide. They have cultivated a life that values this thing that we perceive as wickedness, or values this pursuit that then has these symptoms, these offshoots of what we'd call wicked behavior. But happy and blessed hour when wickedness stands forth as goodness bereft of a guide. It is literally like TNT, like a grenade of a phrase, because tightly packed within that, you have happy and blessed hour. When you have that perspective shift, you have the actual shifted perspective of wickedness standing forth as goodness bereft of a guide. And then it's very easy to have the reflection afterwards of, wow, I'm so thankful for the guides that I've had in my life. The reason I love this kind of cherry on top of happy and blessed hour, it's for our own benefit. There is a happiness to reorienting the world around this idea that it's not this supernatural force. Vedanta does not talk about evil like there is a satanic force that is manipulating the world around us. Satan is the personification of desire, even in the conventional religions that have Satan in Christianity, Shaitan in Islam, which translates to distance. It is the symbolic representation, the personification of distance between us and God. Diablos, the root of diabolical, of the devil, in Greek actually means thrown apart. So when we get past the elementary cartoonish version of what these devils, what evil represents, we get to not this 10-foot tall guy with horns is doing. We get to our distance from God, our disunion, our thrown apartness, our disorientation, this obstacle of desire that stands in the way. And with the right guide, we can overcome that. And part of that pursuit is a reorientation even when we encounter wickedness, encounter evilness around us. And we meet it with compassion, saying, wow, this person thinks this is the right thing to do because they are bereft of a guide. But at their core, there is goodness. That's a lot for some people to hear. That is a beautiful reorientation for other people when they hear that. But speaking for myself, it's one of the most powerful phrases, quotes that Swami will mention. And it is such a happy thing to recognize the inherent goodness in the world around us, the inherent goodness within ourselves, the value of a guide, and the happy and blessed hour when we recognize with the proper internal view, internal development, and with the right inward reflection, maybe one day we can be that guide. That's today's daily reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.